If you look at modern political debates, it seems like the electorate is permanently divided into two irreconcilable camps. But when you track the actual policies these opposing sides implement, the extremes often end up in the exact same place. This diagram illustrates horseshoe theory. Factions labeled far left and far right actually branch off from the same structural priority, collectivist statism. While the left focuses on class and the right on national identity, both demand a massive state apparatus, subordinating individual sovereignty to group identity. The most accurate way to map modern politics is a divide between individual autonomy and an expansive interventionist government designed to extract wealth and control behavior. In Sweden, the current system requires a massive amount of capital to sustain itself. When you combine employer contributions, local taxes, and VAT, the administrative stack absorbs over 70% of the value generated by private labor. This graphic contrasts two eras of state fiscal ethics. On the left, the classical baseline established by early social democrats like Gustav Möller viewed the state strictly as a temporary, highly accountable custodian of private wealth. Contrast that with the operating logic of modern administrators. Today, the political establishment treats tax revenue as a common fund owned by government by default. When the state operates under the assumption that allowing citizens to keep their own money is a theft from the treasury, there is a permanent structural incentive to expand bureaucratic bloat. Taxpayers become a resource to be mined to fund continuous administrative expansion. Fixing this extraction cycle requires a mechanical change to how the government operates. It requires decoupling the authority to write laws from the authority to allocate capital. Sweden already uses a system where citizens direct their own retirement funds, known as the premium pension model. Fiscal Direct Democracy takes that exact mechanism and applies it to the entire sovereign budget. Instead of a closed-door committee writing a monolithic budget bill, the national budget is broken down into individual investment portfolios. Every tax-paying citizen actively curates where their money goes. They log in and assign their mandatory tax contributions directly to frontline services, routing capital straight to healthcare, infrastructure, or national defense, completely bypassing the central administrative bureaucracy. Without a guaranteed automated budget, government agencies can no longer rely on inertia. They are forced to compete on the open market, proving their operational efficiency to the individual taxpayers funding them. A system where citizens allocate their own taxes only works if those making the decisions are actually funding the state. A standard democracy often allows net consumers of public welfare to vote for tax increases on the people who are actively working. This fiscal suffrage qualification matrix establishes an active contributor threshold, ensuring the right to allocate state funds is tied to economic participation. On the right, only audited labor or active business income qualifies. Non-contributory welfare transfers do not grant budget voting power. By ensuring that only active wealth generators and military veterans have the power to direct public capital, the system mechanically neutralizes the political incentive to buy votes through expansive welfare promises. Removing discretionary budget power from politicians triggers an immediate collapse of the corporate lobbying industry. This diagram maps out the legacy lobbying target. Special interests secure multi-billion krona state grants by influencing a small, concentrated group of politicians who hold the checkbook. Under Fiscal Direct Democracy, that backroom access is useless. To secure state funding for a green tech initiative or industrial venture, corporate advocates must now convince millions of individual taxpayers to voluntarily check a box and allocate their personal wealth to the project. If a project carries high risk and low return, the financially literate public will simply refuse to fund it. Crony capitalism and speculative megaprojects die naturally because the market refuses to sustain them. With capital allocation automated by the public, the political apparatus physically shrinks. The Riksdag is halved in size, transitioning into a streamlined legal maintenance body. The hundreds of political appointees and PR communicators whose salaries depend on discretionary budgets are liquidated. This chart outlines the end of automatic, state-funded party support. Parties are forced into a member-driven model, surviving entirely on voluntary dues. If a party breaks campaign promises, it faces instant financial attrition. Members stop paying, losing revenue overnight. Accountability cannot be engineered by electing a new group of managers to oversee a centralized pool of extracted wealth. It is achieved mechanically, by permanently removing the government's monopoly on the purse and transforming the taxpayer into the chief investment officer of the nation.